Hi and welcome. I'm Andy Miochin. You are watching A News. Here are the headlines. China retaliates against Trump's tariffs, hiking levies on American goods to 125%. Ukraine's allies set to provide additional 21 billion euros in military aid. The fourth Antalya Diplomacy Forum, gathering world leaders, diplomats and experts, opens in Turkey. Thank you for tuning in. China increased its tariffs on U.S. goods to 125%, following U.S. President Donald Trump's levy hike on Chinese goods that now stands at 145%. Beijing said it will not respond to any possible further tariff increases by Washington, as American goods are no longer marketable at the current tariff rates. Manur Magdum reports from Beijing.
China has strongly responded to the United States amid their rapidly escalating trade war by increasing tariffs on U.S. imports to 125% from their previous 84%. This move comes as a direct response to President Donald Trump's recent decision to increase tariffs on Chinese imports to 145%. The new tariffs are expected to take effect on Saturday and would render a wide range of American products uncompetitive in the Chinese market. The economic fallout has already begun. Tesla has suspended its orders for China for certain U.S. made models, and China is enacting an export control measure of rare earth minerals. The escalating trade war between the world's two largest economies has caused concerns internationally, with fears of recession growing amid analysts and investors. The coming weeks will be critical in determining whether either side will seek a diplomatic solution. Manu Maktoum, A News, Beijing, China.
Just hours before Beijing's latest response to Washington's tariffs, Chinese President Xi Jinping hosted Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. He invited the European Union to join China in opposing bullying from the United States. Sánchez urged dialogue between China and the U.S. and called for a more balanced China-EU trade relationship at a moment when the world is facing extraordinary challenges. Sánchez's Beijing trip provoked a reaction from Washington, where U.S. Treasury Secretary compared Madrid's attempts to forge closer trade relations with China with, quote, cutting their own throat.
Not long ago, I co-authored an article with Brazilian President Lula and South African President Ramaphosa calling for support for multilateralism, the safeguarding of the common good of all humanity, in opposition to isolationism, unilateralism and decoupling.
The U.S.-China trade tensions could cut the trade of goods between the two economies by as much as 80%, warned the Director General of the World Trade Organization. She said that dividing the global economy into two blocks could result in a long-term drop of around 7% in global real GDP. China's WTO delegation said today it had filed an additional complaint over the new U.S. tariffs.
The escalating trade tensions between the United States and China pose a significant risk of a sharp contraction in their bilateral trade. Our preliminary projections suggest that merchandise trade between these two economies could decrease by as much as 80%. Further escalation becomes tantamount to a shutting off of bilateral trade between the two countries, a decoupling. The negative macroeconomic effects will not be confined to US and China alone, but will extend to other countries, especially the least developed nations. Of particular concern is the potential fragmentation of global trade along geopolitical lines. A division of the global economy into two blocks could lead to a long-term reduction in global real GDP by nearly 7%.
Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, met with Russia's President Vladimir Putin for the third time in St. Petersburg as Washington pushes for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Ahead of the meeting, the Kremlin said that a Trump-Putin meeting might be discussed. Trump has previously expressed frustration with Putin over the state of talks. Taking to social media, he wrote that Russia has to get moving. NATO allies have pledged an additional 21 billion euros in military aid to Kyiv, following a meeting of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group in the NATO HQ in Brussels. British Defense Secretary John Healey said that 2025 is the critical year for the war in Ukraine and that right now is the critical moment. Today's meeting was the 27th gathering of the UDCG and the second to be chaired by Britain, along with Germany, who took over since Donald Trump returned to the White House.
And the new pledges of military aid announced today through the UDCG total over 21 billion euros. A record boost in military funding for Ukraine, and we're also surging that support to the frontline fight.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky urged allies to prioritize air defense and provide 10 new Patriot systems to Kyiv. One of its key European allies, Germany, denied the request, citing its own need for the systems.
Urging allies to support the country in strengthening its air defense, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky asked for 10 new Patriot systems, a versatile air defense system designed to counter advanced aircraft.
I ask you to focus first of all on air defense for Ukraine. We truly need it. 10 Patriot systems, the free world has them. What is needed now are political decisions to make them work for peace. We need that result.
However, Germany responded negatively to President Zelensky's request, stating that it is not possible at the moment to provide the systems, as the country is still awaiting its own deliveries.
As you know, Germany provided already 4 full systems of Patriot. We are not able to provide any more for the moment because we are waiting for being provided by Raytheon in the years to come, which will start only in 27, when I remember correctly. So we are not able to provide more, but what we do is to try to collect all over the world any system in that range for air defense which we can find, and we try at the same time to find money.
Pistorius also emphasized that peace in Ukraine seems unlikely in the near future. He reassured that Germany will continue to provide military support to Ukraine, stressing that Russia must realize Ukraine is capable of continuing the fight with ongoing international assistance.
To talk on the latest surrounding the war in Ukraine, we're joined by Alek Kasman, the director of Protect Ukraine Now, coming to us from Chicago. Welcome, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we've heard the British Defense Secretary saying this is the critical moment for the war as he was announcing the new military aid package. Just yesterday, he chaired the Army Chief meeting of the Coalition of the Willing on a potential security force on the ground in case of a ceasefire. Would you agree with his estimate that this is a critical moment? And what do you make of the latest steps taken by Kyiv's allies?
The announced package is definitely important and helpful. However, it must be noted for everyone who is following this war carefully that this is future commitment. Most likely this money is going to be spread over several years of time, and it will be a while before the aid is procured and military gear is going to be in Ukraine, actually assisting the troops.
Well, as we speak, Donald Trump's envoy, Steve Witkoff, is in St. Petersburg meeting Vladimir Putin. The Ukrainian delegation is set to start talks with the Americans on the minerals deal in Washington. We've heard Donald Trump being angry and frustrated with both Putin and Zelensky. How do you see the current U.S. position on the war?
Definitely Zelensky and Putin are in disagreement, and definitely Trump needs to realize that Putin is not going to negotiate in good faith until Ukraine is in a position of strength. People like Putin, let's face it, he is a dictator and he only understands force. So until Ukraine is equipped with air defense, as President Zelensky just mentioned, And also Ukraine needs long-range capabilities. They need investment in their drone technology, which is cutting edge and keeping Russians away at the moment pretty successfully. So again, the US needs to understand, President Trump specifically, that Ukraine will need to be first armed, and they need to stop Russia from advancing forward. Only that will create an opportunity for any sort of discussion.
Well, thank you so much, Alec. We are going ahead with the news. The first day of the 4th Antalya Diplomacy Forum came to a close. Leaders, policymakers, and experts from around the world had a busy agenda, talking on regional and global issues and the role of diplomacy in a fragmented world. Our very own Katie Wilson brings more.
I'm here in Antalya, and day one of the Antalya Diplomacy Forum has just wrapped up. Now, it's been a jam-packed day with panels on a range of topics from AI to combating terrorism to peace in the Middle East. Now, these discussions on peace in the Middle East is something that Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan mentioned as one of his highlights of the forum this year. That was during the opening ceremony, where we heard not only from Hakan Fidan, but from the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Now, Erdogan's opening speech touched on a range of topics. He condemned Israel's actions in Gaza and expressed solidarity with the Palestinian people. He also expressed his hope for peace in Syria, as well as Turkey's readiness to join the EU. He said, "It has once again become clear that European security cannot be considered without Turkey. Turkey is ready to take responsibility for European security in the future as well." So some really interesting insights there during his opening speech. Now, looking ahead to tomorrow, there's plenty of interesting discussions that's going to be happening, particularly for our region. Two of these discussions that I want to draw your attention to is one on the organisation of Turkic states and another on opportunities for regional cooperation in the South Caucasus. Now, what's interesting about this panel is that it's going to be attended by the foreign ministers of Azerbaijan, Armenia, and Georgia. They're all going to be participating in this panel, so there's plenty to go at tomorrow, and A News is going to be here bringing you all of the latest updates, so stay tuned. And as we draw day one to a close, let's hear from one of the attendees of this year's panel for his reflections.
For us, I mean, since we are concentrated on the cultural relations between the Turkic world countries, let me explain it in detail about where is the Turkic world and which countries they are. They are like Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and Turkey in the beginning. But we are just saying that the Turkic world is much more bigger than that, approximately with the population around 350 million people spread it all over the world. But in here today, we can meet with the presidents, we can meet with advisors, we can meet with the national representatives and also NGOs, which is very important. But what is also special about this Antalya Diplomacy Forum, it also includes youth from all over the world as well. So it's like a total communication hub for interested and intellectual diplomats and clever minds, let's say, who will shape the next generation, the future of our world.
Azerbaijani President Ilham Aliyev met with the leaders of Syria, Turkey, and the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus on the sidelines of the Antalya Forum to discuss regional cooperation and stability.
President Aliyev met with Georgian Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze. Discussion focused on the importance of the friendship and strategic partnership between Azerbaijan and Georgia. Kobakidze recalled his visit to Azerbaijan in January and the meetings he had with President Aliyev, discussing the efforts made to expand bilateral cooperation. He also noted that the remarks made by President Aliyev at the ADA University Forum regarding bilateral relations were met with great interest in Georgia. President Ilham Aliyev highlighted the importance of resolving regional issues by the local countries themselves and stressed the significance of strong unity between the two countries. President Ilham Aliyev also met with the interim president of Syria, Ahmad al-Shara. The president congratulated al-Shara on the changes in Syria and stated that Azerbaijan is ready to contribute to Syria's reconstruction. He highlighted that a diplomatic delegation had been sent to Syria and the embassy's activities had been restored. Al-Shara thanked Azerbaijan for its support and emphasized the importance of cooperation in energy, infrastructure and security sectors. İlham Aliyev also met with Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and expressed satisfaction with the development of Azerbaijan-Turkey relations. Noting the importance of the Antalya Diplomatic Forum as a platform for discussing global issues, President Aliyev highly appreciated the forum. A meeting between President İlham Aliyev and Ersin Tatar, President of the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, also took place in the framework of the forum. The leaders recalled the informal summit of the Turkic Council held in Shusha and discussed the observer status of Northern Cyprus in the organization, exchanging views on the development of cooperation.
The Antalya Diplomacy Forum is set to host a panel tomorrow in the South Caucasus with participation of foreign ministers of Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia. As the talks on the peace process between Baku and Yerevan are ongoing, Tbilisi has, according to some, emerged as a possible venue for the two sides to engage in confidence-building dialogue. Joining us from Tbilisi for a brief discussion on this is George Mchedlishvili, Associate Professor at the European University. Hi, George, welcome. First off, what do you make of gatherings such as the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, where we can see high officials from Azerbaijan and Armenia take part in discussions, and could such events prove to benefit the peace process?
Well, good evening. Thank you very much for the invitation. As far as the forum is concerned, I think it is the fourth forum, to the best of my knowledge, which means that the forum is successful, the number of participants is increasing, and this is a very important part of this diplomatic landscape, the global diplomatic landscape, and I'm really pleased that tomorrow this panel, uniting the three foreign ministers of the South Caucasus states, will take place. It is super important to have this format of three, not 3+3, or not 3+6, just the three countries themselves, and the facilitation of Turkey in this regard, the host of the Antalya Diplomatic Forum, is super important. It is revealed once again that Turkey is developing into the independent and responsible international actor, which desires regional stability and, of course, first and foremost, stability in the neighborhood. And South Caucasus is super important neighborhood in Turkey. For Turkey, the role of the country has been increasing, and yes, Georgia has always had the potential to be a venue of the potential meeting of the leaders and the other high-ranking representatives of Armenia, Azerbaijan. Very unfortunately, until pretty recently, Georgia itself was beset. It's still beset. Part of the Georgian territories are occupied, but I believe that there is an agency, there is a potential for Georgia to develop its own role as a crucial part of the region and make possible and contribute to the peace process. Well, I see that there are parties like the Turkish Republic, which is willing to leave this terrible conflict, the terrible war between Armenia and Azerbaijan behind. And of course, like Georgia will be very willing to be the contributor, all the more since Georgia stands to benefit a lot, the entire region stands to benefit a lot. The dividends are hard to underestimate. And therefore, so I do very welcome this meeting, and I really want, like, my country to develop such a role.
Well, thank you so much, George, for joining us and providing your insight. Azerbaijani and Moldovan officials met in Baku for the 6th session of their Intergovernmental Commission on Economic Cooperation. 2 agreements were signed on enhancing veterinary cooperation and advancing research and collaboration in renewable energy.
$10 million in trade turnover, dozens of bilateral agreements, nearly 200 flights and 50,000 passengers. These are just some of the figures that reflect the relationship between two post-Soviet countries, Moldova and Azerbaijan. To take this cooperation to the next level, the 6th session of the Azerbaijan-Moldova Intergovernmental Commission on Economic Cooperation is now underway in Baku.
Azerbaijan's Minister of Agriculture, Majnun Mammadov, opened the event by highlighting Azerbaijan's ongoing economic diversification reforms and encouraging greater investment from Moldova.
We have reviewed the progress made and assessed the results achieved. Diplomatic relations between Azerbaijan and Moldova have existed for many years, marked by close and friendly ties. Over this period, I can say that 68 agreements have been signed, including cooperation agreements. In just the past year alone, since the 5th session, 4 cooperation agreements have been signed, mainly in the areas of internal affairs, migration, and customs. Today, a further 2 agreements have been concluded, focusing on cooperation in the fields of veterinary services and renewable energy.
Moldova's Deputy Prime Minister Vladimir Bolea reaffirmed his country's interest in deepening ties, particularly in agriculture and technology. He noted the strong potential for expanding cooperation with a focus on agricultural modernization and knowledge sharing.
In my view, one of the key achievements is that throughout our work, we have consistently focused on broad and mutual interests, ensuring that both Azerbaijani interests and those of our side are respected during the negotiation process. This reflects a very commendable level of conducting such meetings, particularly given our joint decision to hold them together.
The meeting also resulted in the signing of 2 key agreements. The first, a memorandum of understanding between the food safety agencies of both countries, aims to strengthen cooperation in veterinary services. The second agreement, focused on renewable energy, was signed between Azerbaijan's State Agency for Renewable Energy and Moldova's National Sustainable Energy Centre. The memorandum seeks to foster research collaboration, encourage the exchange of clean energy technologies and support the development of sustainable energy solutions for both countries. The latest high-level meeting between Azerbaijan and Moldova, held during the Munich Security Conference in February, further reinforced both countries' commitment to strengthening bilateral and multilateral ties.
Turkey and Somalia have signed an agreement on hydrocarbon exploration in 3 of Somalia's onshore fields. The Turkish Petroleum Corporation and the Somali Petroleum Authority say they're strengthening ties between the 2 nations. Turkish Energy Minister and Somali Petroleum Minister formalized the deal in Ankara, with the Turkish minister saying that surveys are 78% complete. Future plans also include developing mining projects in the country. Georgia's foreign minister took part at the Delphi Economic Forum in Greece, where she spoke on connectivity of her country and the European Union. Nini Nikolaishvili has more.
At the Delphi Economic Forum held on April 10 in Delphi, Greece, Georgian Foreign Minister Makabatarishvili reaffirmed the strategic importance of the Black Sea for Georgia's future and its European integration path. She described the Black Sea as a crucial link between Georgia and the European Union, especially since Romania and Bulgaria joined the bloc. Strengthening connectivity across the Black Sea, she says, remains a key priority not only for economic development but also for regional stability. She emphasized the importance of deepening cooperation with key regional partners, including Turkey, Romania, and Bulgaria, and underscored that the connectivity projects are mutually beneficial for both Georgia and the European Union. Batarishvili also noted that latest recent green energy corridor initiative signed with Hungary, Romania, and Azerbaijan as a key example of regional cooperation which aligns with European energy and connectivity goals. The minister also noted Georgia's growing economic ties with Central Asian countries and China, supported by an expanding network of free trade agreements. This, she argued, reinforces Georgia's role as a vital bridge between Europe and Asia. This is Nina Nikolashvili reporting from Tbilisi, News.
Now over to Afghanistan, as thousands of people continue to return from Pakistan after being deported. A delegation of the Taliban authorities visited one of the busiest border crossings to assess the situation. Our Tamim Bahez reports from Kabul.
A high-level Afghan government delegation led by Deputy Prime Minister Abdusalam Hanafi visited the Torkham border crossing with Pakistan. The visit comes amid ongoing deportation of Afghan nationals from Pakistan. Speaking at the site, Mr. Hanafi reaffirmed the government's commitment to supporting returning citizens. He said the administration is working to ensure all necessary facilities and services are available for those coming back. He also called on Pakistani authorities to protect the property and belongings of Afghan nationals, urging stronger cooperations between the two countries. The visit comes as Pakistan continues its large-scale deportation campaign under the illegal foreigners repatriation plan first launched in October 2023. The first phase of the plan targeted undocumented Afghans. Since then, the policy has expanded to include Afghan citizen card holders and other groups. According to official figures, nearly 850,000 Afghans have returned to Afghanistan between September 2023 and February 2025. On April 1st this year, Pakistan launched the second phase of deportations, now targeting Afghan citizen card holders. While the deadline for voluntary departure was originally set for March 31st, Afghan authorities report that an estimated 24,000 people have already been deported under this phase. It's believed that more than 800,000 Afghans in Pakistan hold these cards. The third phase is expected later this year, which will target those with proof of registration cards, temporary legal documents issued by the Pakistani government to registered refugees. These cards are set to expire on June 30th, and around 1.3 million Afghans currently hold them. Rights groups and international agencies have raised concerns about the treatment of deported Afghans. The UNHCR office in Afghanistan has urged Pakistan to ensure Afghan refugees are treated with dignity and respect. This is Tamim Bahez in Kabul for A News.
Well, that's all we have for you for now. Thank you very much for watching and stay tuned to A News.